Okay, so we're gonna start in about a minute here for those of you watching the live stream, and we will.
This is a very serious pre-show.
Yes, red leather, yellow leather, unique New York.
Syphilis, check 1, 2.
The JavaScript will fail for you whenever you need it to work. Okay, I got that one. That's a good voice exercise too. TypeScript, who told me to type it? All right. Okay, it's 12 p.m. Welcome to another edition of insert title here. Currently, it's called Rimple's Tech Chats. We will get a better name for that, maybe even put some sort of contest out there for you to do something with it. I'm Ken Rimple, Training Services Director at Chariot Solutions. I'm joined today by Steve Myth. Steve Myth. That's good. Hi, Steve Myth. He's really a myth. All right, so Steve Smith, who is our mobile practice lead, and Don Coleman, who is our Chief Innovation Officer. And I did that really well, folks. But anyway, so we're here because yesterday, WWDC 20 came out, and the keynote was live streamed to the planet. And there were a lot of big announcements. So we figured we would use that as grist for our Tuesday tech chat. So guys, a bunch of stuff happened yesterday. There's a kind of some seismic shifts in what they're doing in Apple. Maybe we should kind of cover the, not really mundane, but the basic stuff first. So I guess first off, what are both of your impressions overall? Maybe we start with Steve.
So, for me, the keynote is always more about consumer-facing features. You kind of have to dig into the meat to get to the real impact on development and what it means to us and our clients. But I think the two bigger things that I really liked was the fact that they're introducing widgets and app clips. I think those two things are probably more meaningful to our clients because widgets, I know Android has had these things for a while, so, but that's not even worth talking about. But these things for our clients, it gives them ways to get their app or get interest in their app or their content upfront and easier to access for people. So I found that to be pretty interesting. A lot of the other stuff, I don't care about emojis and the nice improvements to messages and stuff like that. But again, that's more consumer facing more so than.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Go ahead,
not instant apps. Well, I don't know what they're calling it.
Basically,
it's Android instant apps. Android announced that in 2017. Apple, they always kind of wait and do it. But I think it could be good. There's part of me that's like, this is freaking awesome because I hate having to install apps for everything. My phone is cluttered with apps. But the other part of me is like, shaking my fist and be like, can't we just use the web for this? Like, why does everything have to be in the closed ecosystem? So I think it's a really good thing for, people using iPhones, myself included. But I think it's really just, trying to think of it. You can't say a kick in the nuts for the web, but I mean, Apple's really looking to shut down all these open things. So, it's yet another thing we have to develop for. So that's great as developers. We can build cool things, but the web is really good at this stuff too.
Yeah, there were a lot of consumer. No, that's fine. Keep ranting. There were a lot of consumer-facing things where I thought, wow, I feel like I've had an Android phone that did a lot of that, especially the widgets thrown into the start menu, and some of that recent app usage things, and I'm sure the AI for the intelligence grouping the apps together should be interesting at first, but kind of they went through and did a lot of usability changes to the OS and to the products.
The reality is that Android and iOS, somebody comes out with a feature, the next year or two the other platform comes out with it. In the end, they're fairly equivalent. They have their differences, but
they should be.
Yeah.
Well, so I think the widgets are great because that'll be really helpful to just get to shortcuts without having to open an app. And I think they mentioned the parking. If you got to pay for parking somewhere, I don't want to download yet another parking app. So having the whatever they call instant apps for that will be actually really cool.
No, I guess that'll come up. Yeah, with our developers.
What's it called, Steve?
App clips.
App clips. That's it.
Okay,
right.
Instant apps is the Android version. App clips is the iOS version.
Right. I got to get with the terminology here if we're going to do this right.
I thought
golden arcs. Yeah.
I don't know what they're calling it. Apple Key. I don't know. For your car key thing. I thought that, again, from a user perspective, I thought that was pretty awesome because my goal in life is to not only have my phone and have no credit cards, no wallet, no car keys, no nothing.
Yeah, that is huge.
If you have a BMW i5 series, you can get that right now.
Yeah, I have to get one. I'll start saving.
Are they electric?
No,
They're not electric, are they? No. Mm-mm.
that's definitely a nice feature to be able to have that. It'll be interesting to kind of see how it works, though. The fact that they talked about NFC to do the unlocking and stuff like that, that is, that's good from a security perspective because you need to do that physical, hey, I'm touching something to enable this. It's a user interaction. But from not having keys, just using proximity is like way more user friendly. Now, with the NFC thing, it's cool because I can say to Steve, hey, I'm going to send you my key via iMessage and you can take my car. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, cool.
So there's probably some, I don't know if it's a private key or what they're doing with that, but that's pretty cool. My first thought on that is, well, hey, is there a master database or a formula for how we generate all those? And we can have a lot of fun taking joyrides in cars. Or, you could steal any car, but I guess you can steal any car with a tow truck too. So that's not that big of a deal. But to be able to just borrow people's cars, especially from the dealership across the street, would be awesome. Oh shit, this is being recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be removed from the final cut, I'm sure.
Right. All we really need to do is do what they do with products. Like go ahead and zip tie everything together so that if you steal it, you have an hour of unzip tying everything so you can use the thing you just stole. So there's that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, not having keys is great. So you can, you go to your car, you get in, you come home, the home automation opens the garage door. I'm a big fan of that. So the more cars we can get that in, the better.
Actually, speaking of the home automation stuff, they kind of made an announcement about HomeKit. Well, HomeKit was open source, which I didn't realize that. It might have been a while
either.
But then they also said they're working with Google and Zigbee and I forget who else on security standards around home automation. I didn't see any details on it, but I thought that was very interesting because that's a big area. Like a lot of our clients are home automation clients, and that's one of the biggest concerns and challenges in that space is how do you do things securely and how do you make sure devices remain secure and what happens when their certificates expire and things like that.
Yeah, kind of tangential to that, I think, is that when they talked about, and this goes with the car, but I also think it could go towards the home automation stuff. When they talked about that U1 chip with the ultra wide band communication, so somewhere between Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I don't know a whole lot about that. They kind of talked about it like this is magical Apple thing, but the little bit of digging I did is that's like, it's been around for a long time. It's built on the IEEE, I got to check my notes, 802.15.4, which is kind of the base for Zigbee and Thread and stuff like that. So they're building higher on top of that. But the fact that you can do spatial awareness, which way the people are pointing and what you're near, stuff like that, could be really awesome for home automation too. So, you can do a lot better things on where I am in my house, what's happening, stuff like that. So I think that's going to be an exciting area to look into. I'm hoping to check out some of the sessions today on, I think they're calling it Nearby, find out what those APIs are, how we can integrate them with some of the apps and products.
Yeah, I did see that session today. Yeah, that's a good one. I bookmarked it.
How about all the other privacy changes they've been making from an app store perspective and like app certification? I'm assuming there's going to be more requirements for developers, maybe coming up as they submit apps to the app store, right?
That was kind of the implication they made. Is there's going to be more. There's probably going to be, as you submit, there's going to be more things to validate that you're doing or not doing, and letting the consumer know exactly what they're getting into when they install the app. So I think that's a good thing. I don't know what kind of overhead it's going to put on us because we don't have the details yet.
Yeah, right.
More app review process. Awesome.
Let's talk a little bit about Big Sur. So, the new operating system's coming out sometime by the end of the year, it looks like, and there's a beta probably pretty early on in the next week or 2 or 3, a very early beta. Anything major in there that you saw that was interesting besides the big news, which is we're going to get to in a little bit hardware-wise?
I don't know. Is the Safari privacy stuff part of that, or is that kind of a separate thing? I thought that was really good to see that, not only the performance improvements with Safari, but more trying to eliminate the tracking and stuff like that. Now, that's like an arms race. People are going to work around it because a lot of money's made tracking people, but it could be a really pretty cool thing. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
How about this whole running apps from the iPad on your desktop? What do you guys think?
I think it's great for us. I mean, and for clients in general, because now you can, reduce that cost. If you need a desktop app, you kind of almost have it by default. by having an iPad app. And they also implied iOS apps too, which is kind of interesting. So if you develop your apps properly with the, adaptive UI, you could have one app that kind of runs on all the platforms, on all the Mac platforms, that is.
Write once, run anywhere. Oh, wait.
We've heard
anywhere
that
in
before.
the circle.
Yeah, I think they said they were working with, so there's Catalyst, right, which is like takes a Mac app does it basically take an iPad app and turn it into a Mac app? Is that what Catalyst is?
Yeah, you can write them to support both platforms. But Catalyst, my impression was, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, the Catalyst is now with the Intel processors. When they move to their own chips, I think you're going to be able to run with very little effort iOS and iPad OS apps on your Mac.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
right, yeah, because everything's going to be ARM, so depending on how you compile it it should run a lot easier there. They did talk about they would run in a security restricted path or something like that, so the path wasn't corrupted. I don't know. They're doing some pretty cool stuff with that. It's on my list of things I need to look into more. I think that there's a lot of good stuff coming out with that. I guess so. It's we got the iPad OS, TV OS, iOS, Mac OS. We got all these freaking things. I mean, so there's a lot of similarities between them. Now they're all going to be running on the same architectures, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But it is more stuff running in a walled garden. So part of me is like, this is great for people that just want things to work. But the other part of me is like, they're trying to kill general purpose computing where you can make a computer do anything. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'm going to continue to buy Macs because I need keyboards to go along with my screens. I try to work on an iPad, and it's good for entertainment, not good for me for creating things. So hopefully they won't try to lock everything down even more, or at least maybe there'll be a way to keep it general purpose too. Sorry,
well, we kind of let the cat out of the bag. So Apple Silicon, right? So the biggest news of all this is, what was it, 15 years ago when I had my PowerBook, they came out with the first Intel Mac.
More than that, wasn't it?
Let's call it at least 15 years ago.
It was like 3 years ago.
Oh, it feels like it's internet 3 years ago. Yeah, right. Exactly. Dog years. So now they've decided that they've had enough of Intel. They do their own chips now. So darn it, we're going to build our own CPUs and GPUs integrated and all that stuff. So now the Apple Silicon chips are being launched. So what do you guys think about
Apple
this?
Silicon? Come on, that's like, you want to get mad at marketing people. They're ARM chips, They're ARM core. They're customizing them. They're having Samsung build them. But it's not like the whole Apple developed everything from the... I don't know. It pisses me off.
It's branding.
Sorry.
So it's part of its branding, but they are changing what you'll run every day. You're running on an ARM chip.
It's all about the spin.
Mm-hmm. It is. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So, wow. I mean, the transition from PowerPC to Intel was, that worked fine. There was some pain, but, it all, for the most part, is better because at least at the time, the PowerPC Macs were wicked slow compared to the Intel ones. And now if you look at how fast iPads are and stuff like that, I think that, things are going to be good with that. You're going to be able to hopefully have, really fast laptops that have the battery lasts a long time and they're thin, So we'll see. You'll have to run Universal 2, which if Universal was so good, why do we need Universal 2? But
it's really universal, right? Yeah.
Doing better than one.
Actually, Universal, I think, is for compiling and packaging the apps. It's going to be the Rosetta 2. And Rosetta, it worked, but virtualization...
So let's do terms here. So, right, so Universal 2, you just said, was basically the compiling of multiple binaries.
I think it's the packaging of the binaries or something like that. So you can I can package the app up so it's going to run on Mac Intel and Mac, whatever the frick they call ARM. Apple Silicon.
Silicon.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's going to be the packaging, I think. And then Rosetta is the emulation, so that with the old Rosetta, it allowed you to run PowerPC apps on was it PowerPC or was it the 32-bit? Shit, I don't know. It allowed you to run legacy crap on your newer computer. And so I think they do that through emulation and virtualization, which has gotten a lot better since that happened before. So I think that will work pretty good. When I run Windows 10 in parallels on my Mac, it runs faster than on some of my actual Windows machines. So virtualization can be very good.
Yeah, I was going to say with the processors today and the virtualization, it should be way, way better than the back in the day, the Rosetta 1 days.
Yeah.
So what do we think about, like, in terms of development? Let's just take ourselves out of the Apple ecosystem. Day to day, we're developers. We're running open source stuff on these machines. I'm sure there's going to be a transition. The one thing I was looking at was there was the Surface. Was it the Surface Pro 10 or the Surface 10? Was an ARM chip, a Microsoft ARM chip, Windows laptop, and they were having a heck of a time because the way they rolled it out, they could emulate apps or run apps in 32-bit emulation mode. So they could take an Intel 32-bit binary and emulate like with Rosetta. And so some apps that weren't retargeted for that chipset would work. But I don't know what a developer's experience is like, if like a lot of the open source binaries that have to be built don't have a target for ARM yet, or for Apple Silicon, whatever they want to call this.
Well, I think with Apple, we have it a little bit easier. With Windows, I mean, one of the nice things about Windows is they work really, really hard for backward compatibility. You can take ancient apps and get them to run on a lot of Windows, whereas Apple's like, tough crap, move on. But I mean, since there's a lot of things, you can run Linux on ARM. I guess there's Windows on ARM. So you can compile a lot of these things, and it really depends on kind of what libraries and what things you're using. You can get AWS ET2 virtual machines that have been ARM. You can get those for a couple of years now, I think. So there's a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of support for it, but there's also going to be a lot of headaches. Things are going to be going great, and then you're going to hit this edge case of something, and you're going to be deep in the weeds of porting something over. So. And hopefully someone's paying for that.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a big push now to get a lot of libraries to be ARM support, I would hope. So like any of the newer platforms that are ARM based, maybe they would be able to be compiled now. Whereas anything that was, because when Apple moves and a lot of developers move, there'll be the actual impetus to start porting libraries over.
And it depends on what you're doing. If you're writing Python or Node or something like that, I mean,
that'll be there early.
You don't necessarily care a lot of times. You're so far removed from what that processor is, that, you don't care. And in other cases, you care a lot. So it depends.
So there's we don't really, I guess, have access to it because we're not doing a lot of desktop apps. But there's now some sort of early start kit, right? Developer transition kit that's available.
Yeah, they had some cool acronym for that. Get the Mac Mini that had the iPad Bionic processor in there or something like that.
Wasn't it a DTK or something like that?
Yeah, Developer Transition Kit.
Yeah.
Application Quick Start. Yeah, that's the thing. So it sounds like what we do is we just keep using our Intel Macs for a couple of years, and then when everything's shaken out, we all switch over to using the new chipset, and everything will be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of interested to see what new Macs come out. My Mac is kind of getting a little long in the tooth, so hopefully this fall I'll be able to get a fancy new ARM-based one. We'll see.
All right. So what's going on this week at WWDC then? I guess there's gonna be a lot of deep dives technically with some of this stuff, but are there any other kind of major session topics that you, Steve, for example, you're going to be attending?
I only had a chance briefly this morning to take a look at what's becoming available, this afternoon at 1. There's a few topics. The one that Don mentioned earlier, the nearby. That has to do with that new chip and the APIs that go around, and that's one of the ones I'm kind of interested in. And there's always the advancement in the current APIs and what they add to make development easier, and then the new features. So I haven't gone past even part. I don't think I got through all the way for today due to some other stuff going on. But there's always such a ton of content, and they go deep into some really good stuff. They usually have 2 to 3 levels of material, so they'll have like the beginner level and then deeper and deeper. And then the nice thing too, and this doesn't have to do with really any announcements this year, but they always go through older in air quotes technologies and new approaches and new, they'll tweak APIs and what's available in the SDK, and then they'll always kind of go into deep dives on that stuff, which is really valuable for developers.
And is it all free now, or is there still like a registration?
Yeah, I didn't. The weird thing was, I think they're doing everything through. They must be doing it through your iCloud account, because I downloaded the Mac developer app, which is where you get the content.
Yeah.
And I started marking some favorites this morning, and then I was like, wait a second, I never signed in And I went and looked at my phone, and those favorites synced across. So it must be, as long as I'm using the same iCloud account on whatever devices, it must sync across. I didn't check my Apple TV yet, though, but I'm hoping it's there too.
They know where you live.
They know everything. You know what, at this point in my life,
Take my credit card. It's good. Yeah.
Between Google and Apple, they have everything. So
yeah. True. What
Yeah,
do you guys think
I missed the TV part. Did they have any cool announcements about
tvOS?
tvOS or anything good coming to that?
Let me take a quick look. There wasn't a lot around there. The only thing I really jotted down was that they're doing the picture-in-picture now across the whole platform. So before picture-in-picture was only the Apple TV app you could do picture-in-picture for. So now they're supporting it across the whole platform. So that'll be great for content providers like YouTube TV and whomever else, all the different streaming apps. That'd be nice.
Yeah, and just different apps, that's the main thing. They pushed Apple TV Plus, which is like, okay, we know you have it. Yeah. Thanks for that.
I'm gonna say I've been pretty happy. I disconnected the smart part of my smart TV and run almost everything through Apple TV, and it works pretty good, except for I curse at that freaking remote sometimes, so I use my phone instead. The fast forward and rewind don't work very consistently on mine.
Yeah, I hate that remote actually. I like a lot of Apple stuff, but I don't like that remote.
No, I bought like I forget what the name. It's like a 3-letter acronym TV for like $280 is my blew out, and it's a 4K TV and it has Roku to drive everything.
Oh,
and
nice.
Side note, they have an Apple TV app for Roku.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I was shocked by.
Cool.
I'm like, wow, I don't have to pull my Apple TV out for watching content. I mean, it's not as nice, but it does the job. I was kind of shocked by that. I wouldn't think they would build an Apple TV app for a Roku. That's like
they built that for a couple of different platforms because they want that. Obviously they want people consuming their content.
Yeah, they want the subscriptions. Yeah. And
when I talked to someone, one of my buddies just got a new Samsung TV, and he said Apple TV is built in. That's actually shipping with those now, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. Coolness. All right. Well, guys, thank you very much for this. I'm going to do just kind of quick news wrap up some stuff the Charioteers are doing. So let me just get.
All right, cool. And I guess the only other thing that I don't have any more information about is the CarPlay stuff too. I'm really looking forward to the fact that we can do some more apps on that. I'm hoping there's some sessions to see if there's some other things that we can do around that. I know it's very kind of limited, but
definitely. The other thing we need to talk about too, not a lot, but it's not new news, but the better support for Apple Pencil on iOS, which I thought was pretty cool. You can use it to like fill in text fields. It does the character OCR stuff. It does, you can, it'll recognize content types, so phone numbers, URLs. I think it's searchable as well. So does
that work with the old Apple Pencil? Or do you need the new fancy one for that? Do you know?
I'm assuming it's OS related and not pencil related. I hope, because I have the old pencil myself.
I have the old one too, so I'm hoping it works with that. But
yeah, they kind of Sherlock some apps that I use, but they do every year anyway. So
it can't help me because my handwriting's so darn bad that it's like, who ordered the gopher nuts? What did you want? I have no idea. So,
so that was pretty cool. I want to make sure we mentioned that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff from a consumer perspective. Like if you're looking at what's coming in iOS, there's dozens of really good things. They really did spend a lot of time like adding useful features. Like for me, I'm biking now, so like actually having bicycle routes that's coming eventually. Maybe not to Philly right away. It looks like it's only in like New York and San Francisco and Beijing and a few other places. But
and the EV stuff. So Don, when you're cruising out and about, you can use Apple Maps to do your EV.
Exactly. Route. Yeah. See what's going on there. That'd be very cool.
You and Ford. No, they don't. They said that Ford and what was it? Ford and I guess Tesla probably are the first two, but not Chevy Bolt. Sorry, Chevy Bolt.
Bummer.
You can use your phone though, man.
Yeah. Yep. That's true.
So cool.
All right, cool. All right. Anyway, guys, hold on for 1 second. We're going to kind of go through a couple things on the blog, and then we'll get out of here. So let me just share my screen and see how badly that works for me today. Let's share this one. All right. So let's talk about a few things that are going on at Chariot. So a couple things that are coming up. We have a remote collaboration with, Product Tank Philly. Michael Geis and Pete Fleming are doing a seminar for Product Tank Philadelphia. It's a hands-on workshop where they'll kick the tires on an online whiteboard and then look at some basic product design. And that's coming up on What is the date on this thing? Oh man, this is real live TV here. This will be on Tuesday, June 30th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's an event we have coming up. We just ran one, actually a lunch and learn. I found this one really useful. I was watching it and kind of moderating the forum for them, but a lunch and learn with Keith Gregory and two of his guests, AWS things I learned the hard way. A lot of things like billing mistakes and configuration issues. One of my favorites that they talked about was don't just go with US East 1, which is the most common like launched new product area for Amazon. Eric Chameau was talking about, I believe it was, that they rolled out some services that they were doing like Lambda early on, and then they were going to roll it out in Australia, and they got hurt because in Australia they didn't have access. That looks really cool. They didn't. Whoa, wait, hold on. Whoa, I see the internet. But in Australia, they didn't have access to Lambda at that time. So, and there's a number of things that launch first in US East 1 that if you don't check to make sure they exist in other availability zones in other regions, you might get flat-footed by that. That's just one of a number of different things in that video, which is online right now. You can watch it right away. Definitely go to chariotsolutions.com and check out our blogs. We have a lot of writing that goes on and also some kind of interviews here. So, for example, we've got some AWS deployment stuff, a lot of 15 minutes with episodes. So 15 minutes with is a quick interview with some of our people and some of our clients and some people we're connected with that Tracy Wilson-Rossman and some others have been doing. So if you check out the resources blog area on the site, you'll see that. And of course, we'll have this one up and live on YouTube. Of course, you wouldn't know about it because you wouldn't know to listen to it. But it will be announced here, and all of the future ones will be in the blog as well as in podcasts as well. And that's about it. So I'm going to wrap up now. Let me just go to the coolest thing ever and stop my screen sharing. But I'd like to thank Steve Smith and Don Coleman from Chariot Solutions for talking about WWDC 2020 today. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Good to talk to you. See you, Ken.
Take care,
Steve.
See ya.